I'm joined now by Hardeep Puri, who's India's Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas. India has certainly, sir, and welcome to the show, been benefiting from discounted rates of Russian oil. Does the country have any qualms about continuing to buy so much, given that Narendra Modi has certainly expressed concerns over the invasion, saying now is not the time for war, now is the time to move into a path of peace?
Let me first try and correct your perspective. We ended the financial year 2022, that is 31st March 22. The purchases of Russian oil was not 2%, 0.2%, number one. Number two, we still buy only in a quarter what Europe buys in one afternoon. So let's be very clear about what the perspective is. Where will we buy from? Russia is not the largest supplier of oil to India. Russia supplied only 0.2%. Now it's one of the top 4 or 5 suppliers. And in fact, the largest supplier last month was Iraq. So that there is no misunderstanding anywhere, we owe a moral duty to our consumers. We have 1.34 billion population, and we have to ensure that they are supplied with energy, whether it's petrol, diesel. We were the only country in the world which, at the time when we were feeding 800 million people 3 meals a day, which we are still doing, the government reduced its revenue in order to make sure that prices at the petrol bunk didn't go up. So we have 60 million people going to the petrol bunk.
There is no moral conflict with buying Russian oil?
Oh, absolutely none. Absolutely none. There is no moral conflict. I mean, somebody wants to take an ideological position. Well, but we don't buy from X or Y. We buy whatever is available, and I don't do the buying. It's the oil companies who do the buying.
Let's be quite clear about this. India is a backdoor into Europe for Russian oil at the moment. You're talking about the... Hang on, let me just finish. You're talking about the oil that comes in and is used for, and you say there's no moral issue with this, in providing energy for 1.4 billion people. But let's be quite clear. Russian oil is imported, it is refined, and then it is exported to Europe, sir.
That was done by some private sector companies, not by the OMCs. Who buys Russian oil, where it is refined?
You're not denying that's happening.
No, there's no question. We have nothing to do with that. First of all, the government doesn't do the buying. Let me be very clear. Oil trade is conducted by economic entities. All right. Today I met the minister from Guyana. They've got a production. Come, we'll buy from there. We're buying from Canada. Do you know something? I bought last year from the United States $20 billion worth, which is almost half of what I buy from OPEC. No, we will buy oil, gas from wherever we can get it.
What if the EU or the US were to ask India specifically to halt Russian oil purchases?
I'll tell you something. First, you should address that question to the EU or to the United States.
I'm addressing it to you,
but I'm telling you, because if India did not buy, or someone else didn't buy Russian oil, and if Russian oil were to go off the market, what would happen to international prices? These people would turn around, and then the same, somebody's cutting supply, we have more people buying it, the price will go up to $200.
Minister, with respect, I'm asking you a simple question. If the EU or the US were to ask India to halt Russian
I don't address hypothetical questions. If the EU wants to come up with something, they will talk to us. We will examine what's in it. So what is on offer now? We have a situation where Hungarian oil can come in through a pipeline, and it's exempt from the so-called price cap. Chinese oil goes through, Russian oil goes to China through the pipeline, it is exempt. Japan can buy it. So I'd like to find out whom the price cap is aimed at.
Okay.
And we'll have a good, robust discussion on that.
Because does India have a backup plan should the West tighten sanctions on Russia?
First of all, we have many backup plans, first of all, and I don't look at the way you are looking at it. We have had healthy discussions going on with the West, the United States, and the Europeans. I think this is something you're creating in a TV studio.
No, that's not fair. That's not fair.
Well,
you know the narrative is out there. I am just crossing.
I have just come back from the United States. Do you know what happened in my bilateral discussions with me? No, I don't have to. It's privileged conversation. But I don't feel, and I've said on record, not only now to you, Andy, but to you earlier and to it, we don't feel any pressure. Modi's government doesn't feel the pressure. We are the 5th largest economy in the world. We are the one country where we are making the transition. transition, when you have increases in oil prices, they have consequences. One of the consequences is there'll be inflation and recession. But one of the consequences is we'll make the transition to green energy just that much faster.
And I want to talk about that. But before I do, let me just press you a little further. Will India cooperate with G7 attempts to cap the price of Russian seaborne oil exports?
I'm surprised that you're fixated on a proposal which has not been fully spelled out, number one. Number two, India will examine it. India will respond according to its supreme national interest. And I'm telling you, we will take a view and we will discuss it with everyone. So, and I'd be happy to come back to you and tell you what our response is.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll hold you to that if I can, sir, with the greatest of respect. Let's get back to Dr. Sultan's comments earlier on today, who is the head of the National Oil Company here. He's also the Special Envoy on Climate. And I started this part of the show by discussing the fact that this is a country that has embedded energy diversification in its economic growth story, originally reliant on oil and gas profits. And of course, you know, this is a good time for oil and gas prices, but has a story of energy diversification going forward. Let's just have a listen to what else Dr. Sultan had to say today at the meeting that you're at.
The world needs all the solutions it can get. It is not oil or gas or solar or wind or nuclear or hydrogen. It is oil and gas and solar and wind and nuclear and hydrogen. It is all of the above.
That was Dr. Sultan speaking earlier today at the conference that you have been at. And I know that there is an inordinate amount of, well, not inordinate, I mean, a huge amount of bilateral trade between India and the UAE, and that's a really burgeoning story. Do you agree with what Dr. Sultan said there? And what do you see from your perspective as the opportunity for energy diversification, the use of solar, wind, renewables going forward? What's your position?
I think perhaps some people are not aware of the fact. What he said is what we are practicing. He's not saying anything with which I can disagree. He says that the transition will come not only from the continued use of fossil fuels, but also from solar, from wind, from X, from Y, Z, and from all of the above. Now, let me tell you what we've done. We are the one country in the world which has demonstrated that we can bring the cost of solar down. We brought it from 25 cents down to 3 cents. Now, if you have to make green hydrogen, what do you need? You need cheap power and you need electrolyzers. We are getting both. We are one of the most ambitious and comprehensive green hydrogen plants in the world. Biofuels, we have gone from 1.4% blending in 2014, Andy, to 10% now. We had a target of 20% biofuel blending by 2030. We brought it out to 24, 25. If you look at compressed biogas, we have 42 plants producing compressed biogas. Our target is 5,000 plants, making ethanol from agricultural waste. So India is doing precisely what Minister Sultan is recommending. So we have no difficulty on that. What we have a concern on is that if you want to make the transition from the current position to green energy, you have to survive the present. And that is where I think the high oil prices have unintended consequences, some good, some bad. The bad ones are that you will find that the situation, which is already inflationary because of the stimulus packages which went in pair, will become more inflationary and recessionary. And the good ones are that we will be, you know, mother is the necessity of necessity is the mother of invention. You're English speaking. So we will go into green energy faster, which we are doing. And we've just released 1 million square kilometers out of the 3.5 for exploration production. We've got all the major guys coming in.